we live in a left-brain society, which is peopled overwhelmingly by left-brain prisoners, and more than that, it's orchestrated and administered by left-brain prisoners. That's why it's a left-brain society. And if you look at what the left brain's about, it's about structure. It sees things as a partness and not as a whole. It's unified. It deals in language. It deals in this world reality, and the whole system is set up to have that left brain, left hemisphere, as the preeminent filter of reality. I'll give you a story, George, that happened to me just a few weeks ago. I was asked to speak about the conspiracy at the Oxford Union, which is a debating society at Oxford University, one of the elite universities, so they tell me, in the world. And they've been debating there about various issues since about 1832, and all the major figures of history and politics, particularly in that era, have spoken there, including people like Reagan and Nixon and many other people, and all the prime ministers galore from Britain. And so it's an elite place from the society that we live in's point of view, which is the left brain point of view. It's an elite university, and it's very intellectual and all the rest of it. But I was also speaking on the last Saturday just past in London, Brixton Academy, which is 2,500 seat theatre. And I was talking there to members of the public, vast majority of which, overwhelming majority of which, have never seen a university, let alone Oxford University. And they were from all walks of life. They were from country after country, as well as all over the world. And here's the difference between people with an open mind who are accessing the right hemisphere as well as the left, and left brain prisoners from an elite university. On Saturday, I gave them everything that I could. No holds barred, no pulling anything back, because, they won't get this, because I'm talking to 2,500 open-minded people. That's the crucial thing, open-minded. When I spoke at Oxford to these elite students, I'm sitting in a hotel in the afternoon before I speak in the evening, and I'm going through this bizarre questioning of myself. How do I put this tonight in a way that these people are going to get it? How do I do it? And this was what was going through my mind. How do I do it in baby steps? And why baby steps for people who are at an elite university? And anything I've got here it is, to a public audience, because the public audience are open-minded. They're using the right hemisphere, which can see connections, which understands the unity of everything, as well as the left brain, which allows us to function in this reality. Whereas the students are absolutely locked in the left brain. And why wouldn't they be? Because this is the way the system works. To progress within it, you have to do well at school. To do well at school, you have to pass exams. And to pass exams, you have to take information into your left brain, because it's left brain information. And then you have to hold it and then regurgitate it out when the exams are there. And you have to, in effect, tell the system what it's told you. And if you do that effectively, then you pass your exams, you get great exam passes, and you go to university. If you do it brilliantly, you go to Oxford or Yale or Harvard or something. At that point, you go through the same process, but at a higher level of taking in information and then passing it out on an exam paper. And then you choose your specialization. If you pass your exams well, you go into law, you go into medicine, you go into science. Often from these universities, you go into politics, etc. And then you go through your specialization, you go through your specialization exams or whatever, and you go through the same process. And what I'm saying is, by the time you reach the positions that control these institutions and dictate their perception, and therefore dictate the perception of society at the top of science and medicine and law and politics and all the rest of it, you are a fully fledged, with honourable exceptions, left brain prisoner who is filtering reality only through the left brain, which means you see everything as a partness. You see everything in terms of structure and rigid structure and rigid way of seeing things. You see everything in terms of laws and rules and regulations. And when you look at the way society is structured, those behind it, not the Bushes and the Blairs and all these people, there's frontmen, there's shadow people behind the people in power, whoever's in power. They understand this whole process, and they've structured society to put people in the left brain as early as possible. In Britain, they've just announced they're going to have 500 educational targets and tests for under fives at preschool. Why? Because that locks them in the left brain, because play is a right brain, ad-lib, imaginative, creative way of looking at the world. They don't want that. They want rigidity and left brain structure ruling reality from an early age as possible. And they're doing it coldly and calculatedly, and we have to get out of the left brain, because that's the prison that put us. The left brain is that which is connected to what we call time, the illusory passage of time that we get caught in this reality. And it gets caught in past, present, and future. And so it holds on to the past. It fears the future. And this is where all this emotional baggage comes from. Oh my goodness, I wish I hadn't done that. Oh, I feel so bad about that, and all the rest of it. Oh, what's going to happen in the future? I'm so worried. Whereas the right brain, which connects us out into the great infinity, that's not got the same relationship to what we call time as the left brain. And therefore, past, present, and future are operating simultaneously to the right brain, though not the left. And so the goal is to find this whole brain level, this whole brain state, where you're accessing the infinite beyond, if you like, through the right brain, and you're bringing that through the left brain to be decoded in ways that we can decode and understand and communicate in this reality, but that it's a partnership between the right and the left, and not a dominance of the left, which is what we have in global society. Because of the left brain's perception of success and becoming successful by overcoming competition, by indeed the success-failure perception. And of course, the left brain is perceiving success and failure on the basis of the left brain's version of reality, which is structure, rigid structure. So if you're up there in the structure, you're famous, or you're powerful within the structure, or you have a title. The left brain's very impressed with that. That's its level of success. Whereas the right brain, it's saying success, well, what is success? It's just a word, it's just a process. But if you want my version of success, it's being happy, it's being fulfilled, it's being joyful. That's my version of success. It's having fun. It's not pursuing position and power and status, which is what the left brain is so impressed with. And because we live in a left brain society, dominated by left brain people, there we have a society in which these symbols of success within the society are all those things: status, money, success through beating the competition before rising to the top of the pile or the greasy pole. The left brain has such a tiny range of perception, of possibility, because it's structured and it's limited, and it's a you can't version of reality. I can't, you can't, limitation, and no. And therefore, when things happen that are outside of its sense of limitation, it perceives them as miracles, when what they are is the natural flow of life. If you want to use the word miracle, the flow of life itself is a miracle, except that it's not. It's just the way that it is.
The way it is. What
becoming a left brain prisoner does is it isolates you, it plucks you out from that flow, and basically it's like an eddy or a whirlpool in a river. The river's flowing past you, and you're going round and round and round and round and round in this whirlpool. You're in denial that you're part of a river, because it doesn't seem like that, because the world's a whirlpool. You're an individual whirlpool. There is no river. You're mad. What are you talking about? There's a river. I'm not part of a river. I'm a whirlpool. There's only a whirlpool. That's all that exists. And that's what it's like when we get detached from the river by this left brain isolation. And once you open yourself to it, and you allow the right brain in other words, you allow your connections out there in, then suddenly the whirlpool and the river become one. And I went through that process. And the whirlpool and the river, if you use that analogy, I'm talking about the left brain and the intuition. Your intuition, your knowing, not thinking. Left brain thinks. We'll leave it to think. The intuition knows. Why does it know? Because it's connected to the infinite all-knowing. It's interesting. One of the things that Jill Bolte Taylor said when she was going through that process of the left brain shutting down and malfunctioning massively is there came a point in that process where the left brain was decoding nothing, right? And what happened? Her head went completely silent. All the chatter, no, what about the mortgage? What about the cat? Ooh, what about that woman that said that the other day? Ooh, what are you going to do about that? Ooh, all this stuff disappeared. There was silence. There was no noise coming from the right brain that was still functioning. All the noise was coming from the left, and it shut down. It had gone. Why? Because the left brain, from its sense of limitation, its sense of apartness, its sense of structure, and all the rest of it, is trying to work things out. Because it's disconnected from the river, unless that corpus callosum, that bridge between the two, is open and running, and in most people it's not to the level that it should, then you get isolated in the left brain. You're isolated in the whirlpool, in the river, and it's trying to work everything out. So it never stops chatting. Oh, I wonder what that is. What's that? What's that? And therefore it thinks. And it thinks because it's thinking to work things out. Whereas when you connect with all that is, with the infinite awareness is all that is, has been, and ever will be, and is the all-knowing. Therefore, it's not there working things out because it already knows. No need for thought, because knowing and thought are not the same thing. Don't ask the question, know the answer. In asking the question, you are accepting that you don't know the answer, and therefore you disconnect yourself from that level of awareness where all the answers lie. I've worked to do this myself. It's not that you're not inquisitive, but it's a different process. Instead of, putting your fist on your forehead like the thinker and going, oh, I'm trying to work this out, you just relax and you let the knowing come intuitively. The moment I decided that when my intuition and my head, my rational thought, which I now understand was the left brain, were in disagreement, I was always going to go with my intuition. And I've always done it. I've never gone against it ever since. And what happens, of course, is that when you go with your intuition and you follow that, what you're doing is you're going against the flow. You're not flowing with the left brain's version of reality, i.e. the society that you've been living in. You're doing things that are different to the norm, different to the status quo. You're seeing things differently, you're acting differently. And that means that in a society that's filtering reality through the left brain, you appear strange, you appear extreme, you appear crazy and all the rest of it. I've had all that. You appear dangerous even. I've had that and all. And most people then, when they get that reaction, that resistance from society, friends, family, neighbors, people at work, down the bar, whatever, to their following their intuition, and sometimes it can get you into some scrapes because suddenly you're not doing things that are expected of you. People can then pull back from that once they get the resistance and go back into following their head, because when you follow your intuition for the first time in the early days and you get into these challenging situations, your left brain symbolically is standing there with its arms crossed saying, see, told you what would happen if you never listened to me. And the trick is, I found anyway, is to keep going with your intuition. Trust it, keep going. And after a while, this is what happened to me. After a while, because your left brain is rational, it's rational. It looks at everything. It's very, very rational. It looks at how your life is working out, and it sees eventually that although when you go with your intuition, it gets you into some scrapes and some challenges, it all works out well in the end, and it works out not despite the challenges, but because of them. And it starts to go, hold on a second, this following your intuition stuff, this it kind of works out. And there comes a point, and it came with me some years ago now, where there's a clasping of hands, if you like, between what we think, i.e. left brain rational thought and all that, and what we intuitively know through the heart, through the right brain, through these high levels of awareness. And you start to think and intuitively feel the same. So the war stops, the war between what you think and what you intuitively feel to do. It stops. And so many people, vast majority of people, are vibrationally and emotionally scrambled by this war between what they intuitively feel to do and what their left brain structurally is telling them they should do. So the left brain is trying to defend and survive in its structural version of reality, and it's going to give you a list of reasons why you should listen to it. The way through that is to go with your intuition and trust it, and then eventually you'll break out of that left brain prison, and you'll start to then become in the world but not of it.